Okay, go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. Again, please, those of you who still have some questions, post them in the chat box so we can go over those. Okay, so there's a question on separating the letters. Okay, so if you convert these from text to segments, I guess I'm not quite sure what letters aren't separating. I mean, these are all separate pieces. I mean, if you're looking in your sequence view, these are all separate entities. What was it you were going to do with the word football that you were trying to separate them, or you think they're not separating properly? We'll just chalk it up to it being Halloween and weird things are going on the computer. But again, they should separate. The only time that that's not the case is when you're going in and doing a true type font and there's a border, that's not going to separate itself. Alright, so let's go ahead and close some of these down so we can do our stitch editing. Okay, so when we are talking about stitch editing, let's get to that because there's something we want to look at with it. So as far as when you are merging or opening stitch files, so again, just realize that our stitch files are those 20 embroidery machine format files, including our DST and our TBF. So again, there's actually an extra one, but so there's actually 3 options. You're only seeing 2 here because the third option is just open stitch file. If you open the stitch file and that's all you do, you can't do anything to it. So we're looking at being able to do some editing to our stitch files. So in that case, we have 2 options. We have open as stitch segments, Again, when you open things as stitch segments, they are still stitch segments on your screen, and they're maintaining the original integrity of your design. It's going to break up your stitch segments based off of commands, just like your color changes and your trims. This is the option you want to use when all you have to do is add or delete a trim, add or delete a color change, or add or delete text. The other option that you have is convert stitches to outlines. So again, when you choose convert stitches to outlines, the computer becomes the digitizer. So it looks at the stitches that are there, and it's going to convert them to the most likable outline file stitch type based on settings that Pulse has put in there. This is the option you're going to choose if you need to resize something more than 10% or change the properties of any segment in your design. So when we jump back into our software, we're going to start a new file. And again, like I said, I prefer to merge just because I've written over enough designs by accident that I just don't do it that way anymore. So I'm going to go to Merge Design. I'm going to go get my designs, which are on my computer. I'm going to change my files of type to a DST, and I'm going to get our New Year's 2000 design. So as soon as I select a stitch file design, see right down here you've got your options that are below your picture. So this is where you can tell it you want to merge as a stitch file, which we said we're not going to do. You can merge as stitch segments, or we can merge stitches to outlines. We're going to start off by going ahead and just merging this as stitch segments. We're going to click on Open, left click to place this on our screen. So again, like we talked about in Embroidery Essentials Part 1, you can place stitch segments on your screen. So if this came from your digitizer and it's all ready to go, except that you need to do things like change the date, change something else about the design, I can actually just bring this up as stitch segments. Again, it maintains the integrity of your design. As far as what they mean by that, sometimes it'll scramble. If you convert from stitches to outlines, sometimes it'll change the fill patterns that were used. Sometimes it scrambles the letters so that they don't look as good. So again, if it's something I know I can do while it's still a stitch file, that's what I do, is merge it as stitch segments and do my editing that way. So you can see over here in your sequence view that you have all your different colors. So if all I want to do is delete these little dots off the party hat, I can click on them so they're selected and just hit my delete key and they go away. So again, very simple to do stuff like that. Where you start getting into what we call true stitch editing is when you try and do that, but you can see like here in the champagne and the glasses, with the champagne and the glasses, if I want to get rid of what's in one of the glasses, if I were to just hit delete now, it gets rid of all of it. So I'm going to come over here and say hide unselected. Then I'm going to come over here to my stitch edit tools. So you can see I have stitch select. I want to click and drag and then hit my delete key. As soon as I hit my delete key, you're going to see that the one goes away. Now, no, it does not change what's over in my sequence view, but if you hit the delete key, it's really gone. Once you save this design and reopen it, you would see that changes the view. Okay. So I'm going to unhide these. Now let's say that what we want to do next is I want to go in with this party hat and put a color change for the little tassels that come off the party hat. So what I have to do is find where it jumps from these little tassels into my party hat. So I'm going to go to, again, my stitch select. I'm going to click on one of these little running stitches. And again, usually you can either watch it sew or you can kind of come in and guesstimate how it's going to sew, because you know it's going to need to do these running stitches before it does all this fill. So then I'm going to go to my forwards by 1/10 hundredths. Now this is actually stitches. So I want to start backing up to where, so see, this is where it's actually in the little tassels. So right here is where I want to put my color change. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go split the segment. Once I split the segment, you can see these are two pieces. I can select a piece and I can select a color. Now, the only thing we have to worry about that is the fact that this did not used to do that before. So that being said, I'm going to need to put in a lock stitch on both the green and on the yellow. I'm going to change my background color real quick. You can go here, change your background. There we go. So you can see this is where my color changes. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to my stitch select, place my cursor there. Again, you can see if I start going forward. So that's where I want to be. So I want to right click and go to insert stitch before this one. And then I can just start clicking and using the stitch I have as a guide. Go back and forth a couple times and hit enter. So there's my little lock stitch. Now I can come down here, select this piece, go to my stitch select, and again you're going to come over here. So if you're not sure, you can go off a little bit. We actually want to be kind of down here.
Can you folks tell me where Orange Julius is?
Across the hall there. Okay. Go up the ramp.
So right there is where we want our lock stitch. So I'm going to right click here, go to insert stitch after this time. And again, you're just kind of guesstimating, going back and forth. Hit the enter key, and now we've got our lock stitches for both pieces. As far as the lock stitch goes, that's what's holding it in place so it doesn't unravel. So when it trims, if there's not a lock stitch before and after it, then sometimes depending on the stitch it can actually unravel on you. So again, your text and everything does that kind of thing automatically. So the next thing we want to deal with is the dates wrong. So obviously the same thing here. If I were to go to delete this, it's not going to just delete the 2000. It's going to delete the whole thing. So before I even go and delete it, the next thing I want to do is kind of match the font up. So there's a lock over here. This lock over here is not a lock stitch. it locks it to your screen. So when it locks it to your screen, then you can't select it. So this way I can line some text up without affecting this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my text tool. I'm going to start drawing my box. I'm going to type in the new date. So from here, I can start to change the fonts and try and match this up. So that doesn't look like it. That's getting closer. So you can start moving it around. So you probably could use that one if you weren't sure what font it was. I mean, I happen to know what font this was, so I mean, we'll change it in a minute. But let's say that this is close and this is all you have. You could go in and make those letters look more like this by changing the text width. Oh, it's a little too much. Let's see. Well, actually, it's close, so let's go. So again, you're really close here, so you might be able just to use that one if that is what you're going to do. You can hide this, unlock this, and then come in with my stitch select and draw a box around this and hit delete.
Good, how are you?
Good.
So when I unhide this, I have the new year. Now, let's say that here's some trims in here, but I need a trim between the A and the E. Again, the same thing. I can't just hit a trim like I was doing in my outline files. I have to be in stitch select and I have to find where it jumps. So again, you can kind of guesstimate and come up here and back up until you get to the E. And then you're going to right click, go to command, go to trim. Now that I did that, this actually has a lock stitch, but this doesn't. I'm going to have to go here, right click, insert stitch, before, and again, kind of use this as a guesstimate as to how long these stitches can be. Hit your enter key. Now if I sew this out and these pieces here were actually going to need to be wider, so you would need pull comp. What you would end up having to do is either A, move these one stitch at a time, which definitely is not the best way to do it, or what we could do is what we call selective stitch to outline conversion. So we saw that you could have turned the whole design into an outline file, but let's say I just want to change the green. So with the green selected, I can come up here to my convert and say stitches to outline. So let's only change the green. Now I can go into my properties, go to my pull comp tab, and put that pull comp in. So those honestly are the big things that you have when you're doing your stitch editing. Now, if for some reason you wanted to go in here, let's say you want another party hat, I can select this piece, I can select this piece, Control D is duplicate, or you can pick your duplicate button. I can put more of these in here and hit my enter key. So again, a lot of the stuff we're doing here is exactly the same as what we were doing previously. So again, we can use these transformation tools. Now, if I need to get in and select this one, it's a lot easier to use lasso select. So I can go to my lasso stitch select. Again, with the stitch file, you have to get every stitch in, so it's really important that you draw the right size box. Hit the enter key. So I can go to mirror group. Again, you can still move these, but you can kind of see that all of the things that we were doing are still here for you to do. Now, where this changes a little bit, like we said, if I go ahead and I do the opposite. So we know how to do this as a stitch file. Let's go in and create another design. We're going to merge this in. So when we go to New Year's 2000, let's say we want to convert this from stitches to outlines. Now when we click open, it's automatically converting all this. So again, if I needed to change the size, I could. So let's say it's supposed to be 4.5. Now, as soon as you do that, again, you really start to see the issues. So you can see it didn't exactly know what to do. So when I come over here to this green, right here, this would have to be changed into a fill. Same thing over here with my champagne. So while some things became easier, we still have to go in and make the necessary changes if it doesn't do it exactly correct. Does anyone have any questions on our stitch edit? Do we have any questions on stitch editing?
Can I see that one of them black hats? Yeah. Are they medium and large? you have a mirror?
Okay, we don't have any questions on that. Our next topic is draw fusion. Again, this is our last topic of the day. As far as draw fusion goes, what draw fusion is allowing us to do is it's allowing us to
Yeah.
work side by side with our Corel Draw program. You do have to have at least Corel version 12. And again, with our latest version of software here, you can actually go all the way up to X5 or 15, as well as X6. So both X5 and X6 are